Well, what's up? Peace to everybody out there. I feel the bill coming on. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. Um, I've recently started to get knowledge of self, KOS, and so that requires me to, it is recommended that I leave or put away um, other books of so-called spirituality, religion, to get the full meaning of getting knowledge of self, which is supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet, along with the 120 degree wisdom lessons by 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 the nations of gods and earths. Now, the nation of Islam and the nation of gods of earth share the 120, but they don't share supreme mathematics and supreme alphabet. So, but this, there's a video coming up after me, and it's a white guy, and he has a YouTube page. His name is Sean Love. I discovered him yesterday, or I come across it yesterday, and he is enlightened. He has knowledge of self, and he's giving you his perspective of the lessons from a white man, from a white person. And in it, he talks about, white people. There are good white people out here that was born that way. They are inherently good, not inherently wicked, evil, or devil. And so he was just building on that, and the wisdom degree lesson in the 1 to 10. The wisdom degree lesson in the 1 to 10 is number 2. Supreme mathematics, number 2 is wisdom. So he's gonna build on that. So I want y'all to check that out. But I'm gonna get off into this, real brief about black people and religion, black people and Jesus, black people in Christianity, black people in baptism. And it's like white people, white men, white people, since slavery, or after slavery, they have been trying to get you off of Christianity and their Jesus for the longest. They burn crosses and they burn church. They burn crosses and they burn churches. Those are all symbols of Jesus. They are telling you, whether they know it or not, to leave this religion. And so my thing is, why would you want to share a religion or a so-called God or a so-called savior with people that don't want you in it? So, that's food for thought. And, so that's all I wanted to say, man. And, surprisingly enough, you may think that white people don't know the nation of gods of earth, 120, supreme mathematics and alphabet, but they do. And they are learning and reading to know where other people, black people, that get knowledge, so-called getting knowledge, is coming from. And so with that being said, I think more black people should look into and strive to get knowledge of themselves. And and so my new motto is, that that a black person should fully understand what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, and what actually it means to be a God, and actually what God is. You know, I truly believe that man plus woman is God. Man and woman make up God together. You know, but now I'm starting to lean towards God. Woman is God. God is woman, and man has been fighting for equality with woman as God. So I think that's why it's more emphasis put on man being God than man and woman being God together. It's like, so it is below, so it is above. So it is on earth, so it is in the universe. And what that means to me is that, it takes a male and female species to procreate. It takes a seed to go into the ground, and that seed produces male, like green peppers produce male peppers and female peppers, green peppers. And we talk about all, this mystery God, we have no idea where the fish in the ocean and stuff come from. But, it takes a female fish and a male fish to make other little baby fish. It takes male birds and female birds to make baby birds. Everything requires a male and a female counterpart to, continue on with that species. And so why wouldn't it be like that in the beginning? The Bible teaches you, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. But that's not true. Once you get off into getting knowledge, it will tell you that the planet was made from natural happenings, natural star bursts, star creation, star explosions, and all the elements free floating in the universe, in outer space, that was in direct contact with the energy and the heat from the sun to form the planet. And so that's how the planet was made. Not one supreme being made the planet Earth, and I believe that wholeheartedly. Now maybe the Earth made a supreme being, or supreme beings, but I don't think a supreme being made the Earth. So that's why I'm starting to give credit, or start to recognize women as God. And so I think, but without a man, a woman couldn't have, continue on with life, with the human life cycle. And without a woman, a man couldn't continue on with the woman, with the human life cycle. So, there is an equality there that, which in supreme mathematics is number 6, is equality. Dealing with all things on an equal basis. I think man and women together is God, and you got some 5%ers that believe man and woman manifest God, which is the child, which is understanding. But if that child is God, then that man and woman have to be God as well. So, but yeah, like I say, man, check out the video, and, I mean, like, all white people ain't bad, but, just cause they pay you, don't mean they have your best interests at heart. Just because they, pay you a lot of money or hire you or is cordial with you, don't mean, or even help you win, don't mean that they have your best interest at heart or the interest of your ethnic group. See, they could pay, somebody could have paid, like for example, I was going to talk about this, the Nation of Islam and Malcolm X was calling Martin Luther King a sellout because he took money from the Rothschilds on the civil rights movement. But that money helped the voting act right get passed for black people. It removed the economic and literacy requirements from the voting polls so black people couldn't vote. And their pool, I believe, got MLK a meeting with Lyndon B. Johnson and Kennedy to allow no restrictions for black people to vote. And that's major. And so but you got Farrakhan don't have nothing good to say about the Rothschilds. He warns us about the Rothschilds. The only thing the Rothschilds I know of or believe is guilty of is just being extremely, extremely wealthy. So, but the fact that they done that, they backed the civil rights move, and they probably would have backed Malcolm X if he was more open to real change and could understand, know how to use their clout. So, but that's a debate for the ages. But I'm just saying, just because white people pay you, do business with you, don't mean they have your best interest at heart. Don't mean that's your man's. Somebody cut your check for $1 million, $5, $10 million, and then send you back to the projects with didn't tell you to contact a mentor, didn't tell you what bank to go to, didn't tell you what kind of financial advisor to use, just cut your check and said peace. That seemed like somebody sent back waiting for you to fail. So you can always stay indebted to them. So, that's it, man. Just, y'all got to be careful out here, man, because everybody ain't your mans, because they pay you. You see? So that's it. Peace.
Yeah. The wisdom degree in the 1 to 10 of the student enrollment with 120. Who is the colored man? Want to take any guesses? So you look at that question, and the question is, who is the colored man? And immediately, to a lot of people that are uninitiated, they're thinking colored man. They're thinking about, the civil rights movement, colored people, water fountains, and that kind of shit, right? They're thinking about colored people. And colored people in that context would mean, in this case, African Americans or black people that are colored or have been colored. But as we discussed in the knowledge degree, who is the original man? And the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the father of civilization, God of the universe. And in the wisdom degree, it says, who is the colored man? So already in the knowledge or the first degree, you're already asking the question of who is the first man on the planet. And then you're asking, who is the colored man? What are the characteristics of this colored man? And why do you call a white person colored when traditionally we've been used to calling black people colored? Well, the answer to the question, who is the original man, and you say the Asiatic black man, then that means the original people on this planet Earth tended to be dark-skinned people, right? So if you're in one state of being, right, which is dark-skinned, and then you've been altered or changed in some way, or time is altered and changed you, then indeed you have been colored, right? So it's like if you take a white piece of paper, you default to thinking a white piece of paper, you color it brown or color it black, then that piece of paper has been colored. But what happens if that piece of paper didn't start out white? What happens if that piece of paper started out dark, and from there it was colored, and colored a lighter shade? Then the colored man, different from the original man, is indeed, it makes logical sense, the person that's been colored is the person with lighter skin, not the person with darker skin, because it started off with a landscape that was dark, and then it went light, right? As opposed to a landscape which is light and went dark, which is calling black people colored people. It's you know, it implies that a coloring took place or a change took place. And if we look at science, you know, forget about the 120 lessons for a minute. If you look at, you know, academia, you're going to see that what I'm telling you is the truth, that the first people were dark skinned, and then later there were transformations that took place to make them lighter, right? So if the question is, who is the colored man? The answer would be the Caucasian white man, or Yakub's grafted devil of the planet Earth. And in earlier degrees, it would be skunk of the planet Earth. In order to understand a statement like that, or why it was made, you're going to have to understand the context of when it was made and to who it was made and what circumstances, right? So as we know, July 4th, 1930, Paradise Valley, Detroit, Master Fraud, you know, begins his teaching, selling silks as if he'd got them from, you know, the home country, going into the black communities and you know, breaking bread, trying to, you know, at the time you've got to look at it. You're looking at a devastated community. You know, migration to the north has taken place, and you've got people that really don't have any ideas of their origins in the world, and in terms of their religious practices, most are Christian, right? And this is indisputable, the slave master's religion, Christianity, right? Because that's who else introduced it to the Africans, right? In fact, I've even met some colored people today in academic settings that say, you know, slavery was awful, but hey, at least we gave them Jesus. At least we introduced them to the Lord, and you know, and saved them in that way. And so, you know, so as if a gift was made, right, of that. So the colored man is Caucasian white man. So, you know, Caucasus Mountains, Europe, the Caucasus Mountains in Europe exist. You can look at that on a map. And, you know, that's when you start looking at the ancient history of Europeans, and you're looking at things like, you know, cavemen. You know, for example, there weren't any black cavemen. It just didn't, you know, there weren't any caves where original people were coming up. So you're looking at the differences between races, and we call this knowledge of self, right? So if you're a colored person, which this was not the intended audience of these lessons, especially not in the beginning, it's still giving you knowledge of self, because you're saying, hey, this is how they see me, and why do they see me this way? And I guess the reason is, historically, the white man has been a devil. You know, if you look at the timeline of history, even the one that's been doctored and colored and changed, you know, by Europeans and European Americans over the years, the timeline of history still reads like, as a group identity, whites have behaved like devils. Look at 1930, when you still got lynchings going on, when black people in this country are still being, you know, told that, you know, basically the highest order of any kind of system that they can participate in is Christianity, right? The slaves master's religion, which, you know, depicts Jesus and you know, by association, God as white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. And then they take a group of people that have been removed from their homeland and brought here to do free labor, right? And then they basically treat them like dogs, right? And they say, okay, well, whites are God, and you're essentially like a devil, you know, essentially worthless, not somebody that can add on to the good of society. We associate everything good with being white and everything bad with being dark, right? Okay, so in that environment, it makes a lot of psychological sense for you to come in, if you're somebody that's trying to teach, and say, oh, let's flip that 180 degrees. Nope, you're God. You were here first, and these people that are doing things like lynching you, like you know, keeping you in the very, very bottom rungs of society, not treating you with any type of social equality, those are the actual devils. But at the same time, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of 5% that say white man is a devil, no exceptions. whatever you're talking about has no bearing. This is what the lessons say. You know, I'm not teaching right now. I'm talking about my understanding. The Father didn't teach on the phone. My understanding of this is that in the lesson, it makes perfect sense. You're trying to differentiate God from devil, and you're taking the original man who's built up all these different systems very, very early on in human history, and differentiating that from the colored man who, you know, most acutely was responsible for the transatlantic slave trade and all the horrors that took place once you reached North America, right? So in that context, white, devil, black, God, sure. Yeah, absolutely. But when it comes into the modern society that I've been raised in, I've seen tendencies upon the part of colored people to behave in a way that's, you know, using different types of intelligence to control others, you know, mercilessly, cruelly, right? I've seen that, but I've also seen plenty of instances of natural-born white folks that just seem like they were pretty damn good right out the vagina, right? Right out the vagina, good people, and that's not something that I'm willing to ignore, right? So if the lessons don't really leave a lot of room for a person like that, they don't have to, because they weren't created in a space that were necessarily meant for the benefit of colored people. They were created in a space for the benefit and for the you know, fast, quick upbringing and teaching of people that were not colored, that were dark skinned, and more specifically people that were you know, offspring of the transatlantic slave trade here in America. You can look at the time and place that these lessons first showed up and see exactly what the audience was for. And in that case, I think that the descriptions are fine. I can break down the rest of the lesson if you want me to. It's color man is Caucasian, white man, you know, so that identifies pretty quickly. Or Yakub's grafted devil of the planet Earth. And we took out the skunk, right? So, so Yakub, if you want to look at the story of Yakub, is a black, big-headed scientist. In the story, you know, Yakub basically separates the black and brown germs and essentially grafts, or changing humanity in scientific language of the time, and grafts out from the original dark-skinned man a white man, right, who's weaker and more wicked. This story's told a lot of different ways, like Island of Pelon or Patmos, where you know, you had leprosy victims who, you know, were brought out to this island and you know, basically exiled from society because of what was happening, and then over a period of years, their skin starts changing, the conditions of their hair starts changing, until you're left with this white race who comes and wreaks havoc on humanity. You know, it would seem from a historical standpoint that the nature of whites in general have allowed for these kind of atrocities to take place, and not just against African Americans or blacks, against each other, against myself. I'm a Jew, you know, so you see this historically, but when you try to lock that into an everyday life, you know, it just doesn't fit on every colored person you meet. And you know, you can fight me on this if you want to, but it's just, I'm the type of person where I love and respect the laws, mathematics, and the lessons, but I'm certainly not going to you know, leave them beyond interpretation when something doesn't sit right with me in terms of how I see the world. It's not an ego thing. I don't give a fuck what you call me. It's important to understand these two degrees were set up basically to change the world. A person in 1930, specifically a black person, looked at the world and say, hey, I'm a dog or I'm a devil, right? No, and you know, whites, they're gods. Look at the pictures, right? No, it's to flip that upside down, and for once, for the first time maybe, right, give a person in that position an opportunity to see the world that is a little bit more accurate than the way they were seeing it before. This has been the wisdom degree in the 1 to 10 of the student enrollment of the 120, and I hope that this has been either informative for you or has offered a different perspective. I gotta go. I got a parking ticket to pay. Peace.